Hi, I'm Ellen Gormley and welcome back to my channel. Today is the first of probably 3 parts on this broomstick lace shawlette. So we're working from, it's a little like a scarf that goes straight on this side. It increases on the other side until you get to the midpoint, and then there's a point here, and then it'll start decreasing back down. So it's a long triangular where one side is straight over here, but it increases on the other side. So we're increasing only on one edge. The other edge stays straight. Let's get to it. It's going to be 3 parts, so make sure you subscribe to this channel and like this video and click the notifications bell so that you don't miss parts 2 and 3. The instructions for each part will be down in the description below, so don't forget to like and subscribe so that you don't miss anything. I have a 35mm knitting needle. This thing is probably vintage. It's so old. And I have a J size hook with my Aran size yarn. This yarn is Cascade 220 Superwash Aran, and I don't know the color name, but obviously it's an olive green. And this one was made out of a Barocco yarn. Very, very pretty. Okay, so to get started, we're working on the point down here first. So we're going to do a traditional point until we can get some loops together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're going to do 4 treble crochets, which is 2 yarn overs, in the 5th chain from the hook. And the thing about broomstick lace is you do not turn. So we're not going to be turning in this, even though it is worked in rows, and I will show you why that is. So we're placing 4 treble crochets in that 5th chain from the hook because we're making the beginning point down here first before we can start our broomstick magic. I hope you're having a relaxing and valuable day, and hopefully crochet is helping you, because you know I believe crochet is a relaxing and valuable use of our time. So now that we have this point down here, I'm going to make this loop big, okay? I'm going to remove my hook, and instead I'm going to put this big old knitting needle in its place. All right, so that is the first loop on our hook. Okay, now I'm going to insert my hook in the next available stitch, yarn over, I'm grabbing that yarn, I'm pulling a loop through the fabric, and then I'm going to slide it onto that knitting needle. Okay, I'm going to do 1 for each slip stitch, first 4 loops. Okay, so we're putting 1 big loop on the edge of the knitting needle, grabbing up the loops. Okay, so we now have 4 loops on the big needle. Okay, we are good to go. So we are doing our broomstick lace units are 4 loops wide. Okay, that will be important to know. So I'm sliding this down to the edge of the knitting needle. I'm going to slip my hook in all 4 of these, pull it off the needle, chain 1. Okay, you got it. And this loop here, this eye, is where we will now place 8 single crochets. Yep, just making sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. They're all going in that same spot. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can you guess why there's 8? Because we're increasing. We have 1 broomstick eye here, and we're going to make 2. So we had our trebles here. We had 1 loop, broomstick loop, but we're going to increase to 2 broomstick loops there. So that's why I needed 8 single crochets, because there's 4 for each broomstick. Now I have removed my hook out of that last loop. I'm going to put my knitting needle back in it, and the knitting needle or broomstick is just to give us a uniform length of loop. So it's not knitting at all. It's just holding those so that the loops that we place on it are all uniformly the same length. So I'm going to do the same process I did before. I'm going to insert my hook in the next stitch. I'm going to yarn over or grab the yarn, pull the loop through the fabric, make it big, slide it onto the needle, and then retension it so that they are all exactly the same size. I'm doing that for each one big loop onto the knitting needle for each single crochet. We had 8 single crochets, if you remember, and so we will have 8 loops on the knitting needle when the knitting needle is fully loaded up. I see we have 6 so far. I have 2 to go to make 8. And here we go. So when is a knitting needle not a knitting needle? When it's a broomstick. Okay, so we have 8 loops on the knitting needle. Now for 8 of them, and from now on, we won't go ahead and just take the knitting needle out like we did for only the 4, because we didn't, with 4, it's easy to not get them twisted, but with 8, you know, it's going to multiply quickly here. Okay, so we are making 2, and then there's going to be 2. So we're not increasing just yet. We're going to do 2 and then do 2. All right. Does that make any sense? You'll see. Okay, so now that we have 8 loops on our knitting needle, we're going to slip 4 of them off onto our hook. Okay, transferring 4 of them onto the hook. Keep the other ones on there. I guess I can move this all in front so you can see better. I'm going to pull the yarn through and chain 1. Then that locks them together, and then all in that same spot where that slip stitch or that chain 1 is, we're going to put 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now we have another broomstick grouping together, an eye, so to speak. And now I'm going to get the other 4 off, place them on my crochet hook. I can let the needle drop. I'm going to pull through and do 4 more. I don't need to chain 1 on this one, and do 4 single crochets, all of those loops together, so that you have another eye. Okay, so woohoo, we now have 3 rows done. I think this works out. I think we'll do 3 videos, so I'll keep increasing. I'll teach you how to increase, and then we'll do a decreasing video, and then we'll do the edging. So now that I have my 8 single crochets and we're not increasing yet, I'm going to put the big knitting needle back in here. I'm going to tension it like I always do. I'm going to pull up 1 loop for each of the remaining single crochets. I don't need to do that for the first one because 1 is already there. So I'm sort of skipping that first single crochet. Okay, we're just doing one for one here, 1 big loop for each single crochet. So we will have 8 loops on the hook. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. So it's just the base here. We're making a triangle. We're increasing. Make sure we get all the correct number of loops. We need to have 8 on the knitting needle for this next row. This is considered row 1, row 2, row 3. We're working on row 4. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 8, so that's great. So now we're going to increase on this row because we want to set up to have 3 on the next row. So I am going to increase by adding single crochets into the pull-offs here. So I'm going to tension like we normally do. I'm going to slide just 4 loops. And if you're concerned about how to slide them off, put the tip of your hook on the tip of your knitting needle and slide it in this way if you're concerned about how to do that, and pull them off. And I'm going to pull make sure those other ones don't fall off of the hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull through and chain 1 to lock it all in place. Now, because I'm increasing, I'm going to do 6 single crochets in this eye. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 here instead of 4. So I've increased by 2. And to get another eye in a multiple of 4, that means I need to increase by 2 on this one as well. So I'm going to slip these off, drop that knitting needle, and single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you get it? So I had 2 eyes, so there was 4 single crochets each. So that was a total of 8. But now I'd like to have 3 eyes or 3 groupings of 4 each, which would put me at 12. So I increased and did 6 here and 6 here. So instead of 4 and 4, I added 2 and added 2 so that I could squeeze another grouping in this row. So where I only needed 4 before, now I need to squeeze in 4 more single crochets, and so I decided to separate them to 2 extra here and 2 extra there, rather than putting 4 extra in just one eye or the other. Do you know what I'm trying to say? I know this is complicated, but hang in there with me. I'll put the instructions for this section in the description below. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss part 2. So now we already have 1 loop on the hook for that first stitch, and I'll go ahead and do the same exact process. And can you guess how many big loops are going to end up on the knitting needle now? If we have 1 for each single crochet, and we've increased to 12 single crochets so that we could get 3 groupings of 4, then there will be 12 loops on the hook, or on the knitting needle. And the knitting needle, you literally could just use a broomstick. You could, but it does help to have a pointy surface here to help slide it on there and get down to the right gauge. So we want to make sure that when we pull up a loop, we get it down to the shaft of the knitting needle so that all of these loops are the same size, and not let them hang out here on the tapered part where it is narrower. We want them all to be exactly the same size. Okay, here we go. So as we go, we need to make sure and have 12 loops on the hook so that we have 12 groupings. So we have 4, we have 4, we have 4. We have 3 groups going right now. All right, so we are in good shape. So now we will have, let's see, let me double check. Okay, so we're going to slide these down, make your hook and needle be friends, slide the hook in to receive the first 4 loops, taking care not to twist them, making sure the other ones stay on there. I would normally work behind the needle just because it's my preference, but so you can see what I'm doing, I am pulling it in front, but it really doesn't matter. So we placed a chain 1 to lock it into place, and 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not increasing on this row because we are having 2 rows of the same number each time. So 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, etc. That is the rate of increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, that we are doing. So Make your hook and needle be friends. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Leave those other ones on the needle. Now we don't need to chain one here. We're going right into single crochet in that grouping all around those loops. In that eye, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, 4 single crochets, 1 for each of those loops in the grouping. Okay, time to get some more. Load it back up. There we go. See, knitting and crocheting can be friends. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here we go. Now, the thing I told you about at the beginning where we're going to start increasing only on the one side and not the other, we'll follow the pattern so that the extra single crochets will be on this side, the side we want to increase, rather than spreading them equally throughout the number of eyes. Now that we've gotten past 2, we're going to kind of load up the increases on the edge where we want to grow, and we'll just do even on this side. But we're doing one more grouping of 3. Remember, we did 2, 2, and now we're doing 3, and we're doing 3 one more time. And then we'll increase again. So put the big old knitting needle back in here, tension it up. We already have the loop on the first stitch, so we're going to grab the yarn and pull up a loop and put it on the knitting needle and make sure we have a nice pretty gauge here. And oop, I snagged the yarn. Let's undo, pull back. I snagged the yarn a little bit. This yarn is very nice. I'm very happy with this color. I do intend to do this entire scarf again in this olive green color because I like it and I will probably wear it. I do wear the purple one a lot. So that's why it probably needs to be blocked again, but it gets worn a pretty considerable amount, and it is probably my favorite shape for a scarf. I love the triangle shape for a scarf. I just feel like it adds a really nice volume and interest, and with this broomstick, it's just a really nice lesson for increasing and then later decreasing in broomstick lace. So obviously when we're not increasing and we're working even, it's just 1 single crochet for each loop, and you would just keep going and going and going. This row, of course, is working even for now, but we need to add some more chains so that we can get to 4 eyes instead of 3. So if we need to get to 4 eyes, then we need to get in 1 extra chain for each loop that we want. So we're going to make our sets of 3 like this, but when I put single crochets in them, we're going to only be increasing on the right side. So again, I'll put 6 here, 6 here, that makes 12, and then 4 more, which would make 16, and then on the next row there would be 4 eyes. So instead of doing like 1, 1, 1, you know, instead of separating out the extra single crochets across the whole length, they will always be loaded over on this edge so that it increases on this edge, and this edge will be straight. Okay, I hope that makes sense. This is a hard one to explain, so bear with me. Please ask me questions or make comments below, and I will do my best to answer them in a timely fashion. Okay, so let's get these loops off. We're always taking 4 at a time. That never changes. Pulling 4 off at a time. We will chain 1 and chain 1 here on the very first grouping, and we'll do 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because we are working up to increasing the number of eyes on the next row. Okay, make your hook and needle be friends. Pull it in front. We will do 6 single crochets in this grouping as well. So we've added 2 single crochets in the first grouping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Make your hook and needle be friends. Oop, oop, I dropped one. That's all right. Okay, this is what happens. When you drop one, you just need to make sure that they're not twisted when you put them on the hook. So get them in there and then make them look all nice and tall and proud. See, they're not twisted or anything. They're all nice and straight down. If you drop them, it's not a tragedy, but it's better to just drop 4 than to drop a whole bunch. And now we'll only have to single crochet in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, because we already loaded up the first 2 eyes with the extra 2 single crochets each for a total of 4. So now we will have 4 groupings on this next row. So the number of single crochets you do is the number of eyes you'll have on the next row. And by eyes, I mean like groupings. So we did 2, 2, 3, 3, and now we're going to do 4, and then we'll do an equal number of loops on the next one so that we're not increasing till the next row. Okay, so make this loop big, take your hook out. Okay. Insert your hook in the next available stitch, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, and slide it onto the knitting needle. Okay, so it is a little fiddly, but you'll get the hang of it. And if you're working like me on a table, it really helps because the table holds the knitting needle for you. Like I have it leaned here against the table. Or if you're, a couch crafter, like I am 99% of the time, you can have the knitting needle kind of propped between your legs or between the couch cushions or between the arm of the couch and the cushion or whatever. So it might get a little fiddly, but, it's worth it because it's fun and relaxing. And it's hard to stop when you do these rows. It's like, ooh, I just want to do one more row. Because this, like sliding the loops onto the knitting needle is so much fun. And then you work them all off, and you don't want to just put your project down with all these loops hanging here. You feel like you probably need to finish them all, right, with the single crochets. So I do suggest when you need to put this project down that you put it down after you did all the single crochet row. I wouldn't put it down with all these live loops on the knitting needle because you don't really want them to all slide off and then not sure how to untwist them. Okay, so we should have 16 loops. Make sure you get that last chain or last loop on the needle. So you might, if you need to double check your work, now is the time to do it. We have 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups. So you can count either 16 loops on the knitting needle, or you can count groups 1, 2, 3, 4 groups of 4. Okay, so now we will have 4 eyelet groups across, and then we'll work evenly. And so we will do that, increasing every other row, placing 6 and 6 and then 4 and then 4 single crochets whenever it's time to increase until we get up to, let me look at my notes, how many rows we need to do before we start decreasing. I'll look at it and tell you how many in the description below. But we get pretty far. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, at least 35 or 40 rows or so before we start decreasing. But I'll put the information down in the description below. Please make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Hit the notifications bell so that you don't miss part 2, so that you can learn how to decrease this, and you'll see where we are, and we'll do that together. So for this part, then get on moving. Look at the description below for the number of rows. Remember, we're just working even on this row, so 4 single crochets. But like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell so that you don't miss part 2. And then we'll probably do the edging for part 3. And then you'll be a master of broomstick lace. So I hope you are enjoying this channel. There's a whole lot of lurkers, hello lurkers, who watch the channel but have not subscribed. So please give me a subscribe, and it doesn't cost you a thing, and it only helps my numbers. But watch each video all the way through so that you don't miss anything, and I will see you on the next one. Check the description below. Thanks. Bye.